Well, welcome to our no, this is not continued. This is our first new Bible study, and this is going to be a standalone Bible study, and we're going to do something a little different. Vicar and I have been we have spent the last 10 minutes or so discussing what our favorite Bible events or stories and why. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to do this on camera. So I'm going to go first because I'm the pastor. And my favorite Bible event is a miracle of Jesus, and it is Jesus walking on water. And it comes to us from St. John chapter 6, verses 16 through 21. And what I love about this text is it comes off of another miracle. It's the feeding of the 5,000.
Right.
And Jesus goes to the Mount Hill, and he's praying, and he sends his disciples away. I'll meet you there. First situation, nobody asks, well, how are you going to get there? They just say, okay,
Sure.
we'll meet you on the other side.
And there's no like cars to
Right.
take a shortcut or anything.
Yeah. So, of course, they get in the boat, bad storm, waves, wind. They're rowing and rowing and rowing. And something that we always need to be reminded of, they know their way around a boat.
Yes.
So it's not like you and me, hey, let's do this 5-mile boat rowing trip and everything will be great.
Yeah, like half of them are fishermen.
Right. So they know what they're doing. All night, wind against them. They go nowhere. Middle of the night, third watch of the night. So this is like what?
It's almost morning, really.
Yeah, real early in the morning. And they see somebody walking on water. And I love what the scriptures say. They were scared because they thought they saw a spirit. They make no bones about it. Nobody says, oh, it's Jesus. He told us he would meet us on the way. This is the most logical and easiest way to get there.
Probably because, this isn't what logically normally
Right.
happens. Jesus is very logical. He's taking a straight path, straight line.
Yep.
Yeah.
The shortest distance between two places. But they're scared.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that scripture says they're scared. And then I love Peter. I really do love Peter. So they're scared, and Jesus says, fear not, it is I. And in my mind's eye, that's when the storm stops, everything's real quiet, and Peter goes, hey, if it's really you, tell me to come out. And of course, the storm's still coming. And I see Jesus, okay, come on out. And Peter steps out. This is where I'm lost. He walks on water.
Mm-hmm.
He takes that first step, that second step, and he's on the water. And he makes it, I don't know how far he's away from the boat. In my mind's eye, he can't reach it.
Yeah.
It's not like he can turn around and grab it. He is beyond the point of salvation on his own, but he's not to Jesus yet either. And that's when he notices, holy cow, I'm walking on water, the wind, the waves, and starts sinking. I think he goes all the way under.
Completely sinks.
Yep, plunk. And, but Jesus is close enough, and he reaches in and grabs him. So it's not like he just keeps on sinking. It's the whole idea that he's underwater, but it's not like he's drowning.
Mm-hmm.
But he's fully clothed.
Yeah.
He's not prepared to be out swimming in the storm. This is probably most likely certain death if somebody doesn't intervene.
Yeah.
And of course, Jesus reaches in, pulls them out. They both walk back to the boat in the water. I don't think Jesus carries them. I think they get back in, and the storm stops. And then Jesus says, why did you doubt? Why did you not keep looking at me? And those are humbling words. And I so appreciate Peter doing this because I know what I would do. Hey, Peter, you go. There's no way I'm questioning Jesus. There's no way I'm going to step out. People don't walk on water. Am I fully willing to believe that Jesus is on water? Yes, because that's Jesus. Me? No. So I give kudos to Peter for getting out, going out. But then Jesus' statement, why'd you take your eyes off of me? Why were you afraid? Those are big statements. And they're very humbling because it's, first of all, the reminder, no matter what's happening in life, I'm here, I'm in control, and I'll take care of you. Because I forget what church father makes this statement. By Jesus walking on the water, he's exercising his power as creator over creation. He can do what he wants to do with his creation. If he wants to stand on water, he's going to stand on water. If he wants to float in the air like the ascension, he's going to float in the air. And I love that. And that's missed in this text because we're concentrating on Peter walking on water.
Right. And I think maybe that's one of our mistakes is what business does Peter have being out there?
Right.
And I think it's interesting, if you look at a lot of Jesus's miracles, they're often for the benefit of someone, like the feeding of the 5,000 or even the calming of the storm in a different miracle. And this one's a little bit different because it's not necessarily to heal or to serve anyone.
Yeah.
Even Jesus is walking on water, but especially Peter's.
No, I think it's interesting, and it's a big event. But the last question, why'd you doubt?
Yeah.
Why did you stop looking? And I do not want to allegorize this. If we just focus on Jesus, the waves of our life will be calm and we can do anything. Nowhere. Because Peter still sank. Peter would have died if it wasn't for Jesus' interaction. And I really like the idea that because Jesus has entered into our creation, controls our creation, and comes to us,
right,
we're rescued and saved. Even if death happens, we're still rescued and saved. Because this is one of the true metaphors, picture language. Sea and ocean, that's the abyss. That's death.
Yeah.
If you're out in the water, you're going to die. If you're in the boat, you're safe. And Peter steps out. Now, he steps out at Jesus' command and promise, but he looks away and he sinks.
Yeah.
I think that is an amazing thing. And I also see that for the church. Is the church is the boat, and we go out into the world. Do we lose our focus on Jesus? And if we do, thanks be to God, he reaches out, brings us back to the boat, back to the church. And we need to remember that. I like that picture. And I like the oversimplifying aspect of that, because I don't want to apply it to when you're dealing with this hard situation. Jesus,
right?
Yes, he's there, but let's not put it in this miracle text.
No, I think that's probably a good way to read this and a good way to look at it, so that we don't end up accidentally saying something that really we can't back up. Yeah. I think one of my professors once said, "Why can we not walk on water?" Because Jesus hasn't told us to.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard a phrase connected to this, and then I'll turn it over to you. Pastor Prum, my friend in Homas, he was in Israel, and he had to give a devotion. And this text came up for his devotion, and he made the mention that Jesus walks on your baptismal water to come to you, to save you from sin, death, and hell. And I thought that was a beautiful imagery, because we have Jesus walking on water, and in baptism we're connected to him.
Yeah.
And he walks to you in the depths of your death to bring you out a new creation. So we got some baptismal language, definitely resurrection language, but more importantly, focus on Christ and how he delivers you.
Yeah, I can see why you would like that one.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your favorite biblical event or story?
I went back and forth between a lot of different ones. I think there's a ton of really good, really challenging, really funny, really deep ones that we could go into. But I think today the one I'm going to choose is from Job 38. And this is not the official designation in the Bible, but Job 38 through 41, I like to call sassy God.
Love it.
Just to give, this is not what's in the Bible. This is not the heading. It's not the bold heading in the Bible. That's what I call it. So just to give a little bit of context, we've got this long book of Job. And in the first two chapters, we learn what's going on. Job is this upright man of God, and the devil, Satan, comes before God, and God says, "Have you seen my servant Job? Look at, how he loves and follows me." And Satan says, he only does that because you give him good things.
Right.
Take those away, and he will curse your name.
To your face.
To your face. And God says, no, that's not what's going to happen. And he ends up giving the devil permission to take away the good gifts of God. And there's an escalating series of events where the devil takes more and more and more and more. He ends up taking, his his possessions get taken by robbers. His children all get killed in a tragic accident. And then even his health is attacked when he gets these boils all over his body. And God says, you can't kill him. But the devil is allowed to do this thing. And this is a really big kind of moral conundrum.
Right.
Where, what's going on here with how can God do this? How can God allow the devil to attack Job, this upright man, this righteous person? Well, you wouldn't be the only person to ask that. The other person that asked that is Job himself.
Yes, often.
The whole book of Job is Job and his friends talking about this situation. And really, I'd say more accurately, struggling, arguing. Because I just told you the first 2 chapters of Job. You know who doesn't know that? Job. Mm-hmm. Job has no idea that any of this behind-the-scenes stuff is going on. He does not know why any of this is happening to him. He knows God was protecting me. He was giving me these, he was providing for me as my father. He was giving these great gifts. And now those are gone. What's happening? Why does it feel like my God isn't hearing me? He says that in chapter 31. He says, listen to me, God. And he's really, really struggling. And I think this is something that a lot of us can relate to.
Well, with that, one of the things that I really like before God answers, Job is questioning, what have I done?
Yes.
Let me fix it. Let me bring your challenges to me.
Yes.
That's a scary statement, but it's also, and I really like how you said it, my Father in heaven has provided for me, has protected me and delivered me. Now I'm in this situation. What did I do?
Yeah.
And I really like that because he focuses, it's not a God is evil and bad. What did I do? And why is God responding that way?
Yes.
And I like how, again, you framed that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely what he does. He goes through this whole list of sins, like, if I've done this, if I've done this,
right.
if I've done this. And he's looking at himself and trying to figure out, what could he have done to possibly cause this? What sins could he have committed without knowing it that have led to this situation, that have led to this withdrawal of the favor of God?
Well, because that's what his friends tell him.
That's exactly what his friends tell him.
You messed up,
yeah.
And God's angry and you're being punished.
And his wife tells him, just curse God and die.
Yeah.
Just get this over with.
That's love.
Yeah. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to touch that relationship. But anyway, we get to chapter 38, and God shows up to Job. Mm-hmm. He shows up in this whirlwind, and he says, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read this part. God says directly to Job, who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding, who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? Or on what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? And it goes on like this for 3 chapters. And I like this passage for several reasons. One, it reveals something we did not previously know about God, that he is capable of being sarcastic.
Yes.
This is extremely sarcastic.
Oh, yeah.
Because essentially he's saying, like, you've been leveling these charges against me. You've been wondering, where is God in all of this? What's going on? Do you have any idea who I am?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what I am capable of and what my character and creation is? And of course, Job very humbly says no.
Yes.
Later on, in verse 3, that dress for action like a man. More accurately, it's gird your loins, prepare for battle.
Yeah.
I'm going to question you, and he walks through, these cosmic language. He walks through like animal language, like, oh, did you design these animals?
Yeah.
Do you command the earth and stop the oceans? And I call it sassy God because it really is God saying, I'm God, and you're not. And that's hard.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really hard lesson. I have to think that this is hard for Job, too. But God's right. We're not God.
Well, what I like about all of this is God looking at Job in the eye. Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
And Job, no.
Yeah.
Well, let me show you.
Yes.
And I really appreciated your statement. It's at the end where Job accepts this humbly. He's corrected and he's built up, but only after God explains things does he get it.
Yeah.
And I think that means a lot because, again, it's not Job, I'm in the right, you're in the wrong. You show me. It's God. Do you know who I am? It's Moses.
Yeah.
Who do I say sent me? I am who I am.
Yes.
And then Job, what are you doing? Do you know who I am?
Yeah. And what's crazy is that all of Job's moralistic, philosophical arguments of the previous 30 chapters melt away in the face of God. And that's scary.
Oh, yeah.
This shows we do not have a safe God.
No.
We have a huge God. But the good news is he uses his power, his might, his immense infinite godness to care for us. He ends up restoring Job. He ends up providing for him like tenfold what he had before. Now, I don't think that's, completely fair when it comes to kids. I don't know if you can really replace kids, but he does have a bunch more kids. He does get his property restored. I do want to read what Job said after this passage. Job said, I know that you can do all things and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore, I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. He has just come face to face with the bigness of God, with the realization that God is God and I am not, but also the incredible realization that this God, who by all rights owes me nothing,
right,
is going to give me everything.
Well, and with that perspective, let's go back to the very beginning of the story. So you got the devil hanging out in heaven.
Yeah.
And that's always a weird statement.
Definitely.
And this is actually an event that some church fathers have written about. And it was the idea that God holds court. And you always have to have different parts for court. You have to have a judge, so you got God. You have to have witnesses, so there's all the host of heaven. You have to have a prosecutor and defender. You have to have an accuser. And so Satan actually played a role in heaven to accuse God's creation and people. And I think it's amazing. And no matter how many times I read the book of Job, God directs Satan.
Yeah.
And I think this is fascinating because I want an easy life. And if this is the life of God paying attention to me, the heartache, death of family, loss of possession, I didn't sign up for this.
No.
I want God's love. I want smiling Jesus and Jesus hugging me. And I think that totally goes out the window with the way Job approaches, why does this happen?
Yeah.
And I love, again, both not only what you said, but what Scripture says, these accusations. I think Job's in the right. Why is this happening?
Yeah, he does not know.
Right. And now he's challenging and he's saying things he doesn't know about, doesn't know the full plan. But let's play earthly, stay earthly. Why? Friends don't help, wife doesn't help. And when God shows up, I am God, you're not. And then it's the light bulb. Oh, I have always been in your care.
I am a creature, you are creator.
And again, you've said multiple times that humbleness. And for the application of this in our daily life, our Christian life, being reminded of that often.
Yeah.
I promise you heartache in your life because you know God's love, because you know God. And it's not God willy-nilly, hey, your life is too easy.
No.
Let me make this hard.
Well, I want to view this whole event in the light of Christ in two separate ways. One is where I think you're going, which is, I'm going to do the other one first. First, this event shows that God shows who he is through his creation, specifically through us, through humans. When Satan accuses, he does not accuse or go after God. He goes after humanity. But God also shows who he is by pointing to humanity. Now, when we bring Jesus into this picture, what's truly incredible is that humanity becomes the proof of who God is fully and completely by the death and resurrection of Jesus.
Right.
Because Jesus redeems the entirety of humanity, humanity becomes the proof of God's goodness, that God is who he says he is, because Jesus has made us good by dying for us. I think that's incredible. This idea of this, like this court system, this accuser, but God has made us righteous.
Yep.
Right. Righteous is a legal term.
Yes.
He has made us righteous before the accuser, which shows who he is, which shows who we are. That's incredible.
Right.
Now, the other part that I want to get to is this also shows that God reveals who he is through suffering. That this is what happens with Christ. He reveals who he is through Christ and through his suffering, but it's also what happens with us as Christians. God reveals who he is, not by making our lives easy, not by purposely making them terrible, but God is seen through our suffering. And that's why this is a deep book. This is an incredible book, and why it's one of my favorites, and not just a throwaway joke about sassy God, but it really is at the core of the biblical message, which is why it's so interesting that, some scholars date this book really, really early and believe that Job has been with God's people for a very, very long time. I think that's interesting that this book is not just an obscure one in the middle of the Bible, but one which actually has been informing God's people for thousands of years.
And it continues to do, and we get to learn a lot, especially with the connection of what Christ has done, and especially as we look at St. Job and his life. Well, we have a question for you. What is your favorite biblical event or story, and why? The Bible's huge and big, and there's a lot of interesting things. Again, before recording, we went through a bunch of stories.
Oh, yeah.
And these things are neat. These things are hard. Why did this happen? So we went through a lot before we settled on this. And so we'd be very curious to hear your thoughts about your favorite story or event. And thank you for joining us.
Comment below.
Please.
Let us know. And we would love to see why those stories matter to you.
Yeah. Well, God's peace and blessings.